guys, Jake again. I'm sitting here with my friend Katy VanCuren, and we're just going to talk a little bit about her career path. It's a really interesting one. She kind of changed careers, a little bit later in life, but she's balling, and we want to kind of let people know about it. She was in high school administration.
I was, yes.
And I'll just kind of let her introduce herself a little bit and tell you what she does now. We're just going to have a nice conversation.
Okay. Yep, Katy VanCuren. I am the broker owner of Silvernail Realty, and it's in Big Rapids, Michigan. And while I certainly sell real estate, a bulk of our business is also property management here. So that's, I think, how we initially met.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Katie's one of the few people who doesn't think they own the town, and she was very helpful to me in finding a couple student rentals, which is the business that I'm in. How many do you guys manage?
We manage 250 doors, so yeah, quite a few. I think we're either number one or number two here in town. Okay. So for the largest property management. So.
And do you know how many buildings that adds up to be?
I don't. I know it's 468 tenants.
Wow. So a lot to do on the first of the month.
Lots to do, yes.
You're juggling all the time.
Yeah, about 50 different owners that we prepare monthly statements for, and we just finished up end of the year reports, things like that. So
okay.
Yep.
And can you just give us like a backdrop of how you got into it, and then maybe start even a little further back, like what your career was before you got into it, and then how you got into it?
Sure. Well, I graduated college and thought I was going to play college basketball and then maybe even WNBA, but I ended up with a college career, but then ended up in in education. And after 12 years in the classroom, I switched to administration. And after 14 years of that, so 26 years in education, is when I decided I was hungry and craving something else. I needed another challenge. I loved what I did. I loved teaching. I loved coaching. I even liked being an administrator, believe it or not. But there was something missing. I wanted to be my own boss, and that's what it was. I was thinking about it this morning, and I was 48 when I made the change. And so people are like, yeah, but you only have 5 more years. You could be done, collect your pension, get your benefits, everything from the education system, and you don't have to do this. And I just wanted a change. I needed something different. And coming to this was really natural for me because it was my grandfather's business. Then my mom bought it, and now I'm a 3rd generation business owner here in town. So, but really, I wouldn't have done it even knowing that I'm a 3rd generation owner and it was kind of in my blood that way, because I really was passionate about being an administrator, but it really came down to wanting another challenge. So that's really why I made the change.
And one of the reasons I really wanted to sit down was to talk about that, because as you know, most people don't like their job. It's just a fact of life, and we're both entrepreneurs, and we know how rewarding it is, even though there's tons of hard work and you do a lot of hand holding and things can be super stressful. But at the end of the day, you're just shouldering your own stress, not a boss's or a administrator of, up the chain. Mm-hmm. And then the payoff is just that much sweeter.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said. I can't really say I work less hours now, but there's something to be said for the decisions I make are mine, and I have to live with those, and then good and bad, right? But
sure.
The decisions I make are a lot of times financial, and I get the benefit of that versus working, in education where, the more hours I put in, the same money I made. Now I can dictate my hours, the structure, my people I employ, how much I spend in advertising, how many trips I'm going to take, when I leave. Do I want to work a 3-hour or a 3-day work week, a 5? I can do all of it. It's all mine to choose.
Right. And were you, I don't want to say scared, but nervous at all when you went from, pretty steady paycheck to question mark, a little bit later in life? Like, did you have any apprehension about, hey, I wonder if this doesn't work out?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but I'm not, I don't fail. So I I didn't think I was going to fail at it.
Yeah,
I just
sure.
knew I wouldn't. I'm a hard worker, and I'm going to do what it takes anyway. But that's also why I really enjoy the property management end of things, because managing 250 doors for 50 different owners, I have a set income. I know what I'm going to make every month. If I sell a house, that's just, I call it travel money, because I like to travel. So I get to plan a trip. I get to buy something special. I get to buy something out of the ordinary, something I wouldn't, because I have, with property management, I have that money. I have that guaranteed income that comes in every month.
And that's one of the really cool things about real estate is it's not just this one box. You know, you're probably getting a lot of real estate referrals because you manage properties, and
Yeah.
you're probably getting a few properties to manage because you sell real estate. And so, I like to call it a three-legged churn, where one business just feeds the other, and that is powerful in a lot of ways, because everybody wants to talk about right now, oh, we're going into a recession, the economy is going to go down. All you have to do is pivot maybe a little bit left or right, and you still got clients, you still got income. Maybe you don't sell as many houses this year as last year, but your paycheck is, still
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah. And,
So,
obviously it's a small town, so I know the other agents and brokers in town, and, they'll call me, geez, I've got an investment client. I don't really know what to do with them. That's really not my forte.
Cool.
Just spoke with another realtor. She, her horse farms and bigger, farming property is more her alley, and that's not my alley. So we might, switch clients, or at least help each other out, get some referral fees that way. So,
yeah, cool. How would you say, so you own a few rental properties as well?
Yes.
I don't know how many exactly, but what would you say the power of that is, or where do you want to see that go?
Well, I want to acquire more. I was just speaking with somebody who is one of our owners, new to owning an income property, and they had a couple of things go on at the home that I'm managing for them last month, and so they're frustrated with expenses right now, and I'm trying to explain to them that it's an investment property. Sometimes we use the term income and investment interchangeably, and it's not really great to do. So I remind them that this is an investment property. It will be an income property once it's paid for, once you have all of the remodeling done, and once the roof's in, and once the flooring, because you're never going to not need those maintenance and the upkeep and things like that. But once it's paid for, the mortgage, so to speak, is paid for, you're realizing a lot more income at that point. So it's fun to educate people on that. And I can speak firsthand and say, look, listen, I just had to put a new sewer in at one of my places, and I didn't get the bottom line I wanted off of that property last year either, but I know what the future holds.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I actually just explained this to my parents. They don't invest in property. It didn't run in my family or anything like that before I got into it, and it's just such a long game when you look at it. Like, you might make a few $1,000s a year off your properties if you're doing all the right things, but if you take care of them and you're putting value in and you're upgrading tenants each and every time, you're not going to make tangible money for maybe 10 years. But that, looking down 20 years or 15 years, if you can pay them off quickly, maybe you'll have $2 million worth of real estate just sitting there, paid for. Now you can think about scaling back or retiring, altogether, or at least just not having the pressure of a day job.
Absolutely. I have some clients, they have, I think, 9 homes. Some of them have 3 and 4 doors within that house, right? It's been subdivided. So they have 9 properties. Neither of them work anymore, and they're about my age. So, 52, 53, right in there. And neither of them work anymore. They do a lot of the maintenance themselves, but I manage they don't want the turnover of the rentals and the paperwork, and they don't work, and they live off of those rentals.
Yep. I mean, it's when you really boil down the numbers, how many properties would it actually take, to replace your income?
Yeah.
And that's what I think is so powerful about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's when I talk to other people about getting into the business, I don't call them by name, obviously, but I can go over the numbers of those people and tell, this is where they
Sure.
started and this is where they were 5 years from then. And,
super valuable.
and now they're just bought another property. So,
Yep.
yeah. And those are great owners to work with too, because they get it. If you don't get it, I'm at the point where I have 50 owners, but I've gotten rid of some owners too who just really don't want to put the money back in or don't understand why that needs to be done or that hasn't been done when somebody else managed it. Why would it have to be done now? Or I can be a little more selective, and I like that.
That's the
I
goal.
like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you went from a job that you were maybe not told exactly what to do every single day of the week, but now you can kind of create your own path, which that's the beauty of real estate and entrepreneurship and business in general. But
Yes.
you've kind of packaged all of those together, which I think is cool, worth sharing with people, and especially worth sharing with people who maybe are at that point where the kids are getting out of the house, life is changing, maybe they're downsizing their house and they hate their career.
It's not too late.
Yeah.
It is not too late to make a change at all.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
See ya.